All over again.
Yep.
Okay, my name is Chuck Gould. I was born on July 10th, 1942. Uh, and I went to live, we lost everything when my dad died in 47. And my grandfather came and saw we didn't have food to eat. And he said, "That's it, you're going to the farm." So he packed us all up and we moved to the farm in Bemidji, rural Bemidji, by a place called Besida. And we were on the headwaters of the Mississippi River. I started trapping when I was 6 because my grandma didn't have any teeth and she liked snowshoe hares. So my grandpa taught me how to snare them. And then my grandpa Gould bought me 3 number 0 long spring traps, and I started trapping weasels, and I thought I was rich because I got $3 a piece for them. And then the pay for adults was $1 an hour, so I thought I was doing pretty good. So I decided to be a trapper, and I trapped diligently, studied it. I was very successful with it as a kid, and I only had 7 traps, and I bounty trapped fox and coyote. Caught my first coyote when I was 13, and just kept really pouring everything I had into trapping. And I wanted to be a professional trapper, live in the woods, have a sled dog team, and all that stuff. Well, um, my mom jerked me out of there when she moved to Brainerd and bought a beauty shop. And I went down there, lived in town, graduated from Brainerd Junior College in 1961, and went to St. Cloud State, graduated there in 63. And then I went to the Art Center College of Design, became a commercial artist. And I did that for 17 years. But everybody was giving me work to do in the weekends, and I couldn't go race my dogs because I got a dog for a pet to go to the beach and meet girls because I never had much time to do that. So I trained the dog to hunt ducks, and she was a hell of a duck hunter and a pheasant hunter and everything else. She was really a very smart dog. And I was told if I got 2 more dogs and a sled, I could get prize money. Well, that always appealed to me, so I did. And we started on our journey. I moved to Eden Prairie, where we're at right now. And I've lived there for 50 years. Well, anyway, the neighbor kid came down, Dennis Laboda, to see if I needed somebody to mow my lawn because we got 2 acres here. And he comes back in, he says, "What the heck do you do with all those dogs?" So I told him. He said, "That sounds like fun. Can I do that?" And I said, "Well, I got to get you a leader." So I bought a leader named Whitey from the people that own Plunkett's Pest Control. And so now he had a leader. And then the neighbor on the other side, Pete Stensham, he wanted to do it too. So I got him a leader, and the 3 of us started racing. And we were very successful. We won a lot of races. And I got my first dogs from Oz Bayers, and I went up and worked for him to learn it because there were no books then. You couldn't buy a book. There's no internet, and you had to go learn everything hands-on. And so I went up to Ozzy's every morning in the fall, in the dark, and with my 3 dogs that I had then in the back of my truck. And I helped Ozzy all day run his dogs. We fed him at noon, and he had to go to work at the can company at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Then I was on my own. Oz's wife, Mabe, coached me with my 3 dogs. Then I'd go home and do the artwork I had to do, get up in the morning and go back up there again. And I did that for a whole fall. But I learned. And Mabe coached me really well. 3 years later, I beat Ozzy with the dogs and Mabe walked by in the chute and winked at me and said, "I guess I'm done training you, Chuck." We were really good friends. She was just a sweetheart of a lady, and very helpful. She helped all the beginners. She was the driving force in our club expanding because she kept the kids going. Well, anyway, I had this dog, or I was told by Mabe that there was a dog I needed to buy, and his name was Archie. And the guy that had him didn't like him, and she heard he was going to put him down. Well, she had bred that litter for Oz, and they had traded pics of the litter, and that was the one that he picked when they were little pups. But as the dog got older, he got real woolly, and he ended up kind of short coupled compared to what most of the dogs were. So he didn't want to sell the dog to me when I went over there. He said, if I sell you that piece of crap, it'll ruin my reputation. Nobody will buy a dog from me. So his wife was at the table. I offered him $100, which was a lot of money at that time for that dog. Because Mabe told me to get that dog. She knew he was going to be a good dog. Well, anyway, his wife chimed in and said, what if I sell him the dog? That won't hurt your reputation then. So we decided to do that. I bought Archie, brought him home. 3 years later, I beat the guy I bought him with. I beat the guy that bred it with Archie and lead. And he ended up being my leader till he was, I think, 11 years old or 12. He ran the North American. He did everything. Won races all over hell. An amazing dog.
But you didn't have a good start with him.
No, he started off going, he was afraid of crowds of people. In the first race we went to, he went right over the chutes when he saw the crowd and back to the truck. Ozzy came up to me and says, my God, don't run that dog and lead anymore. I'll never be able to sell the dog. So I went to John Cooper, my dear buddy John Cooper, who passed away a long time ago. He coached me and taught me a lot. Well, anyway, Cooper told me take him down to downtown Minneapolis on Black Friday and march him through the crowds. And I did that 3 days, the Friday night, Saturday night, and Sunday night. And on the last night, or no, Thursday night, Friday night, and Saturday night. And on the last night, we were coming back. I had a harness on him, and he was G and hawing around the parking meters. And this bus came up to pick up some people right in front of us, and it splashed water on Archie, and he didn't flinch at all. He kept right on going. And there was a crowd under the eaves because it was misting and kind of rainy. And when the bus pulled up and opened the doors, they walked out right in front of Archie, about 15 feet in front of him. And he went right through the crowd and didn't pay any attention to him. And I thought, my God, I got him trained. So we did it in grocery stores a couple more times. I took him around, led him through crowds and all that. And then we went to races. And that year, the first race of the year, Archie won it. Beat all those guys that had given me crap for buying that woolly dog. And I had a lot of fun with him. He was a great, great animal. And he's buried now on my leader ridge, we call it, where we bury the leaders in Isabella. And I had one of his puppies named, what the heck was her name? I can't think of it right now. But anyway, Jerry Vanek, Dr. Vanek, he's a vet now. Wasn't a vet yet, he was a vet student. He and I were out running in the Elpo International race in New York State. And we're walking across the parking lot, and this dog starts just screaming. And I thought, my God, somebody's got a dog that's getting hurt. Let's go and get it untangled or whatever. I go over there. Yeah, the dog's name was Digit. Here's Digit. She heard my voice. And I had sold her 2 years before that. And she still recognized my voice just from me walking across a parking lot. That blew me away. These dogs are a hell of a lot smarter than we think they are. And then I sold a lot of pups in Canada out of Archie. People in Minnesota didn't buy them because they were mad at me, I think, for beating them with them, and they didn't want to get them. But we set up a program where we gave puppies to kids that were starting. I'd give them 4 puppies and a started 2-year-old leader, and the next year I get the dog team back, and we did that for the kids to help them get started in the race. And then on Thanksgiving weekend, I go to my mother's place in Brainerd with my dog truck, and they were supposed to bring the 2 pups that they didn't want back to me, and I'd take them home, and we'd run them there. Our guys would run them, and but these kids got started with good teams then to begin with, and a lot of them stayed in it for quite a while. It did quite a bit to bolster the membership in our club and everything like that. So anyway, that worked really well till I found out people were buying stud fees off of the puppies that I had. Because Dennis Chrisman up in Alaska, he befriended me when I went up there. And I tried to buy a dog from George, and George, I had scared him a little bit, I think. And one guy told him I didn't have a top dog on the truck. Bernie Turner told him that. And he said, if that guy ever gets some top dogs, he's going to kick your ass, George. Well, I didn't know that went down. So I walked up to George after the race and asked him to breed to his leader. And he gave me the best compliment I ever got in my life. He looked over his glasses and says, you can't touch my bloodline. You're going to beat me someday, and I'm going to keep that day as far off as I can.
And who is George?
Atla. The best racer ever, really. And he ran the Iditarod. He would have won it if he wouldn't have had to stop for his mandatory layover. He didn't take any layovers. He just kept going. And at the end, they said, George, you got to take your mandatory layovers. So when he was taking his layovers, everybody passed him. And he came in 3rd, I think, in the Iditarod. But he never ran it again. He said it's just a big camping trip. But it isn't anymore. And in my gene pool, I've collected every winning leader that wins a major race. I try real hard to get that bloodline as close to the dog as I possibly can. And I've got most of them in my gene pool. There's nothing in my kennel right now that didn't descend from a major champion race leader that won it in lead. And those are the genes that I picked up on the advice of my brother. He said, figure out what you want and don't let any other genetics into it, and just stay with that. So I did. My last one was we bred Lance Mackey's Hobo bloodline into Egil Ellis's bloodline from his leaders. And that's the pups I've got right now that I think are the best pups I've ever had in my life. They are crazy to run. When we first hooked them up, we didn't do any block dragging, no tire work. We put 6 of them at a time in harness, and in 20 yards, all of them were pulling. And we would run them 6 miles, and none of those pups would trot. They were loping and driving the whole way. And now we've got, Kylie and I have got, I think it's either 6 or 7 of them running lead already. And they're a year and a half old. So I'm pretty happy with that.
Yeah, what do you got for the future?
Those guys. And then we're working on Brent Sass's leader, his male leader. He's going to come up and stay at our kennel.
And who is Brett Sass?
He just won the last Iditarod.
So he's going to come up and stay with you?
Yeah, he's going to come up to our place. I showed him the pictures because I knew his dad before I ever knew Brent, because his dad is a pool builder in Minneapolis, and we would have breakfast over at 4 and 5 restaurant on Friday mornings and exchange customers and stuff, like somebody needs this and somebody needs that. And it was a business thing. And one time he asked me, he says, Brent's dad did. He asked me, "What do you do in the winter?" I said, "Well, I got sled dogs." Well, he said, "You got sled dogs? My son's got sled dogs." So that's how I found out about him. Then he came down here to visit his folks last year, and he came to the dinner we had, or the breakfast, and we had breakfast together and talked the whole time. We didn't get the breakfast eaten even, but I showed him the pictures of our kennel and all that, and he's going to come here and headquarter out of our kennel and run the race circuit down here, so his family gets to see him race, and he can spend some winter time with his family.
Wow, absolutely. Did you ever get one of George's dogs?
Yeah, I got Grover from him that Dennis Chrisman got for me. Grover had 2 broken front legs that were broken because George was feeding horse meat from Edmonton that was trimmed off of the carcasses of the horses they were butchering, and there was no bone in it, no calcium. The vet told him repeatedly, "George, you got to get some calcium in these dogs," but they were really doing well on it, and George didn't believe him. And when he ran the North American, because that trail's as hard as your kitchen floor, for 70 miles, Grover broke his front legs. And so did Freckles, and so did Cooley, his 3 front dogs. And so George tried to get them fixed. He took them all over. They were in California for a while at some vet specialist clinic there, and they couldn't fix them. And so he decided to sell Grover, and Dennis talked him into selling it to me. So I bought Grover.
What year?
1980. That was when I bought Grover. And I brought him down here, and I was up north. I told George not to ship the dog yet because I was going up to green break my puppies on snow up in northern Minnesota. We had no snow down here in Minneapolis. And George shipped him anyway. And he ended up at the airport. Nobody came and picked him up. They couldn't get an answer on my phone. So they were about to send him back when Cooper found out about it. And he went and picked him up for me. John did. And then the word spread through the club that I'd bought a dog from George Atla with 2 broken legs. So Ozzy came up to me at the next meeting, put his arm around me and said, "Charlie, I wish you'd have told me you wanted a dog with broken legs. I'd have sold you a dog with 4 broken legs for half what you paid for the one with 2. And the whole place busted out laughing at me. And nobody'd buy a breeding off of him, was what I thought I could do to reimburse what I paid for him. And nobody would, because they said he had weak bones and they didn't want that. They didn't know, and they wouldn't believe me as to why that happened. So I bred him, I think, 23 times, if I remember correctly. And I kicked everybody's ass the rest of the time I had that bloodline, because nobody could keep up with them. They were incredible dogs. And I finally sold Grover to Don Bland for $250 more than I paid for him.
Wow.
After I'd bred all those dogs out of him. So that was the best business deal I ever made, was buying Grover. And he was a great dog. He was the strongest dog I ever had my hands on. Even with 2 broken legs, just on his hind legs, you couldn't hold him back.
Is he still in a lot of your lines?
Oh yeah, he's in everything.
Okay.
And now I've added, since then I've added, what the heck is his name? Rick Swenson's lead dog that did 3 Iditarods. I can't think of the dog's name right now. It was a female, and it won one of those Iditarods in lead and finished 3 of them in its lifetime. And Rick thought the dog was done doing Iditarod, so he traded it to Charlie Champagne. It ended up running point on Charlie Champagne's sprint team, And Atla beat him in the Rondi by 8 seconds overall. With that dog that had done 3 Iditarods in point on that team. That did it. I found that out in the team and trail, and I went after that bloodline till I got it. And I got it, and it helped me a lot. It gave me the outcross that I needed about that time. So I've used Iditarod bloodline, leader bloodlines for my outcross now 3 times. And it puts that drive in them that the other faster sprint dogs don't have, that level of drive. And I think that's what's helping me with these pups I've got now. Because when I added Hobo, it changed. It really was apparent that all of them had this incredible urge to run. And one of the little white dogs that I got running lead right now, the girls want for their dog when he retires already.
Right?
And he's just a yearling.
That Ute?
Yeah.
Ute. Yeah, Scarlett loves that dog. All right. Well, that was a fantastic interview. And thank you. And we'll have more in the future.
Okay. We'll see you when we go to race then.